Listen, I know this video's late. I honestly was probably gonna skip this review, do maybe a little nod to it when I review Spider-Man Far From Home in November, and instead I just talk about Bird Box, aka A Quiet Place 2 Electric Boogaloo. But then I got a message from a guy. Now, this guy, this absolute lad, went to sell Spider-Verse and got the idea to eat an edible before seeing it. You know, a devil's lettuce-laced food. And this dude sends me a message and says the movie was spectacular, and that the imagery impacted him so much that during one scene with Kingpin, the man had a full-blown panic attack as a wild-ass combo of the weed and the absolute unit that is Kingpin. So I decided I have to make a video on it for two reasons. One, this movie deserves a video. Two, I needed to tell you all this story. A lot of you asked me to review this, including people who normally just watch my other videos. So I kind of had to do it. Anyway, I don't often really enjoy animated movies. I mean, they rarely take risks, so it's not hard for one to be okay. I mean, there's a reason Disney makes essentially the same princess movie, but with slight changes nearly every year, and that Pixar keeps making more and more Toy Story movies, even though, and I think we can all agree, none of us want more. Toy Story 3 was a good ending. Stop it, please. Now, I can't handle it anymore. Now, when animated movies do take risks, it's 50-50. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse took that 50-50 chance, doubled down on the risk-taking, and it flew to the fucking finish line. And it won. I loved Spider-Verse. It's hands down my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time, and it's the second best superhero movie of 2018. Of course, it's not like the competition was all that steep. Anyway, Spider-Verse is one hell of a movie. It's directed by Rodney Rothman, Peter Ramsey, and Bob Paraschetti. Rothman having previously co-written 22 Jump Street, Ramsey having previously directed Rise of the Guardians, a DreamWorks animated film, which I loved as a kid, and Bob Paraschetti worked on a bunch of stuff as an animator. Oh, also, this movie is written by Rothman and Phil Lord. It's an excellent group of people, and they did an excellent job from start to finish. Spider-Verse is gripping and pulls you into its world. It deals with Spider-Man, not like he's a big deal, but like we already know who he is, which we do. There are allusions to this universe's Spider-Man, voiced by Chris Pine, and the Raimi universe's Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and references to a variety of other Spider-Man things in our world and the movies. It's nice to see these things acknowledged in a way that isn't campy and just is, it's done really well. There's no other way to really say it. This movie, however, doesn't follow Spider-Man as we know him, but instead it follows Miles Morales, voiced by Shameik Moore, a new Spider-Man. I'll avoid spoiling the story, though I will talk about it more later. Let's get into this amazing cast. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse stars Shameik Moore, Jake Johnson, Haley Steinfeld, Mahershala Ali, Brian Tyree Henry, John Mulaney, Nicolas Cage, and Liev Schreiber, half of which all voice different types of Spider-Men and women. Now, I do want to say I'm biased here. I love Spider-Gwen, and I love the comic line the movie is based on, which is Edge of the Spider-Verse. That being said, it also makes me a lot harder to impress since I've read these characters for years and have voices I place with them, and it was great. It was amazing to see characters I love brought to life by actors who perfectly encapsulate what these characters are. I mean, the movie has fucking Nicolas Cage in it. Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man. I mean, and it works. A superior Spider-Man to Nick Cage's almost Superman. Much of this movie relies heavily on the actors and animation, much more so than they do for the story. Any other movie probably wouldn't have worked as much for it to be propped up by those two things, but this one it did. Unlike a comic where the characters half the time are less important than the story arc, Into the Spider-Verse puts the spotlight on the people in its world, and the story is very simple and very linear. It's a smorgasbord of nods to the comics and references for Spider-Man fans in both the world and the characters, but the story is the most basic thing possible. Enjoyable, but basic as hell. It's like going to an ice cream shop and asking for vanilla ice cream, one scoop, mind you, but then requesting the cone be dipped in chocolate, rolled in gold, imported from Belgium and dusted with truffles and caviar. You put so much focus on the outside and the superficial parts that the inside, though tried and true, is just mind-numbingly average. Now, they could have expanded it, they could have put less time into the characters and some of the gags they do, but I don't really think it was necessary. The story, as basic as it was still full. It just was go from point A to point B to point C and then complete. There's no twist. It's just a very simplistic story that works well with the way it is. At the end of the day, it's just average. I absolutely love the way this movie looks. It won a Grammy for Best Animated Movie, beating out Isle of Dogs. I don't think it should have. Isle of Dogs was much better, but that doesn't in the slightest discount the animation style the Spider-Verse has. It took 140 animators, the most have ever worked on Sony animated movie, to make this, and it looks beautiful. Spider-Verse does this really neat thing throughout, where it has thought bubbles appear sometimes, where if the character's saying what they're thinking, and others without. It's another one of the little things they took from comics like the rest of the animation, and it adds so much to the world and experience when you watch it. The characters, there's far much more focus on them. They even have outlines most of the time, the characters, but it doesn't detract from it at all. It's not like a Telltale game where this is awkward, this is weird, this isn't really, making a lot of sense. Instead, you just see the scenes come across the screen and it looks like a comic book, a moving comic book, but animated so well. When the first trailer came out and I saw how it all looked, I was disappointed with how choppy it was. I thought it'd be weird to be watching things in this almost flipbook style of animation, but the movie itself wasn't like that at all. The facial animations in particular are fluid, and the movement, while still resembling the choppiness, isn't inhibited whatsoever. It feels completely natural for the world. It's extremely difficult to explain it in a way that's conveyable. I mean, you're seeing it on the screen right now, but even then that doesn't do justice to it because this isn't the final footage. It's just something that needs to be seen. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the ultimate Spider-Man movie. It's got charm, it's got all the different spider people you'd want, and it deals with the Spider-Man origin in a great way, and is the most accurate comic book movie I've ever seen. It's amazing, it's spectacular, it's sensational, it's superior to every other Spider-Man movie save for one respect: the story. So many more have so much deeper stories. As a Spider-Man fan, I loved every bit, but as someone who likes good movies, every single villain except Kingpin and Prowler are just there for the sake of it. Every hero other than Miles, Spider-Man, and Spider-Gwen could be interchanged with literally any other character, and they only serve the purpose to be entertainment for the ones that aren't really necessary. At times they're just cannon fodder for a joke and just there to be in one scene to do something cool. It doesn't detract from the story, it's just something that they could have removed to make the story better, but it may have actually made the movie not as enjoyable because of what it brings. I honestly do love this movie, but it's only an 8. It's not a 10, it's not a 9, it's a really good in every area it does well on, and it doesn't try to be more than that. It's an enjoyable Spider-Man movie. I think you'll enjoy the hell out of it. Just don't eat an edible before and get scared shitless by Kingpin. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and thank you all for the kind messages about the last video. I'm setting up a new recording area, so you can expect to see a lot more like it in the future. I plan to do a bigger video as the first one for the new year, but I'm getting swamped setting all that up, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on Spider-Verse if you saw it, and what you'd like to see me do a video on next. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this every week. My merch store has excellent merch. It's the best merch on the goddamn planet. You can get that in the link in the description, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Huge thank you to Patreon supporters Anonymous and Matt Porter. I really appreciate it.